My name is Paige, and I'm at Deschutes Public Library, and we are here tonight to taste some wonderful cheeses. I'm joined tonight by our chef, John Butera, and he is going to be leading us through this great workshop. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John to start leading us through this delicious experience. Chef
All
John.
right. Yeah, good. Well, thank you, Paige. It's my pleasure to be here. Welcome, everyone. I think I had the opportunity to meet a few of you as you came in to buy your platters here in the market. And for those of you I have not met, I'm Chef John Butera, cheesemonger here for Market of Choice number 8 in Bend. And yeah, we're here to do one of my favorite things in the world, talk about cheese. So to summarize, to begin, I was telling Paige earlier, usually when we do tastings, we go by type or region. That's typically how a cheese tasting is approached. We're doing something a little bit different here, and I think it's kind of exciting. What we did instead, we've got 5 cheeses here, 4 of which are actually brand new to us here at the market, and they're cheeses that we're actually really excited about. We literally have tasted hundreds and hundreds of cheeses here over the years, and these are all outstanding. And they kind of run the gamut as far as style goes. But so I'm going to kind of preface this tasting by just giving you a quick overview of the 5 types of cheese. And this is how we once again do a classical cheese tasting. So we group cheeses into 5 types. The first one is fresh, and these are your soft spreadable cheeses like your chèvre, goat cheese, your mascarpone, your ricotta. These are very, very young cheeses, most of which have been made immediately and can be served right away, or that have aged anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. We won't be tasting any fresh cheeses because heck, we got much more fun things to do. The other classical type is soft ripened cheeses, and those are your brie types. And I say brie type because brie is classically from northern France, specifically Normandy. But these are cheeses that are about 2 weeks old or so and have begun to develop a bloom. As a matter of fact, that's what we cheese professionals refer to them as bloomy rinds, because that soft white bloom on the outside, that's good bacteria. And yes, you do eat that rind. Yes, eat your rind. It's actually, those are good for you. As the cheese ages a little bit more, then we get into the third type of cheese, which we call washed rinds. At this point, the cheesemaker has to start washing the outside rind of the cheese, usually with a brine solution, though it can be any one of a number of things. Beer is sometimes used, cognac or sherries are sometimes used. You could use anything. You can use your imagination, I mean, just to keep that bad bacteria from forming. Then next, we have the 4th type classically of cheese, the hard cheeses. Those are your cheddars, your hard Goudas, your Alpine cheeses, your Gruyere, Comté, anything that is, firm to hard. And these have been aged, anywhere from a month to many, many years. Parmigiano Reggiano, by law, is aged a minimum of 2 to 3 years in order to get its DOP designation. And then the 5th, classically, we have our blue cheeses. And these are cheeses in which a penicillus mold has been introduced to the cheese. And we all know what happens then when we introduce mold, penicillium into cheese. We get blue cheese. Yes, we love blue cheese. Matter of fact, if you're a cheese geek like me, you just rave about blues. So I wanted to give you that quick overview just to give you an idea of cheese types. So does anyone have any questions right now or anything they'd like to ask before we dive into our actual cheese plates? Wash rind examples. So that's a good one. So your classic like Alsatian Munster, very pungent on the nose, very strong. Morbier from France, which some of you may be familiar with, that is a classic wash rind, which unfortunately we can't get here in the United States. Reblochon, also from France. which is a younger wash rind, which is just starting to get a little bit pungent. These cheeses do tend to be very aromatic, but also on the palate pretty creamy. I mean, there's many examples, but if you come here in the shop, obviously I can walk you around the case and show you a number of examples. But if you think Munster, think Morbier, think Reblochon, those are great classical examples of wash rind cheeses. We've got some very good domestic ones too here in the States, and we've got a few in the case down there. We won't be tasting any of those tonight, although we'll show you when we get to the Dorothy's Keep Dreaming. It's rubbed with ash, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, shall we move on to our platters, everyone? Sound good? Okay, so we're going to taste in a certain order here, and I will give you my logic, if you want to call it that, why we're going to do that as we progress. Let's start with the Cypress Grove Humboldt Fog. And the reason we're starting with it is a soft-ripened goat cheese. I like it because it's really going to wake up your palate. It's very tangy, a little bit sharp, and it's got that goat cheese, a little bit of funkiness, but not very much. But it is a young, bloomy cheese. And it's also very unique. So let's, everyone have a little taste of our Humboldt Fog. Love this stuff. Get that tanginess, that zip, really dances on your tongue. This really good with bubbles, sparkling wines, or a lighter pale ale. By the way, I am a wine guy and a beer guy too, so we'll be talking about good pairings. Like if you are familiar with Australian sparkling pale ales, Humboldt Fog and an Aussie pale ale, man, boom, home run. So you'll notice that this cheese has a layer of ash in the middle. And actually that's supposed to represent the fog rising over the bay. This is from Arcata, California. Those of you familiar, Northern California, actually not too far from us, about 6 hours from Bend. They're right on the coast, terribly beautiful place if you've ever been there. And so with this line of ash, it represents the fog coming in the morning. And the ash is grape leaf ash. And we're going to talk, like I say, a lot more about ash when we get to the Dorothy's. Oh, your cheese is not labeled. I just saw that from Kelly. Did you get your handout? So your handout should have little arrows there that point towards a type of cheese. So the Humboldt Fog's pretty easy to spot. It's got this layer of ash there. And let's see, Kelly. Okay, any other questions on that? I'm going to move on here to, this is a great one, the Dorothy's Keep Dreaming. And has everyone got their Dorothy's? So this is kind of unusual. It's from Illinois, not exactly a bastion of cheese making in the United States, that, at least to my knowledge, and I actually did live there for a few years. But Lena, Illinois, small town, and these are women cheesemakers. Actually, 2 of our wonderful cheeses are going to be made by women cheesemakers. This is a soft ripened also, but as I say, it's been rubbed with that layer of ash. And it does add like a little bit of earthiness to the cheese. Maybe I get a little bit of smoke, a little bit of like damp leaves, a little cavey thing going on. Ash rinds are very traditional in ancient cheese making, because obviously before the days of refrigeration, it was actually a means of preserving the cheese. And we have here in the store, you'll see a number of examples of ash rubbed cheeses. One of my favorites is Garrocha from Spain, a goat's milk cheese that has been rubbed with ash and olive oil and aged for 8 months. If you stop by the shop, any of us would be happy to show it to you. It's one of our favorites. I lived in Spain, and so I'm not far from Garrocha actually, and I love this cheese. So the Dorothy's, let's get back to it. This is also, I'm going to take a little bite here just to refresh my memory. So soft ripened, buttery and rich. You get just maybe a little bit of barnyardy little funk going on. and a little bit of smoke there from that rub. This is an amazing cheese. Really love it. And it's like I say, it's new to us. And we got pretty excited about this stuff. We also, pardon me, we also have its sister cheese, which is an unrubbed version, just a straight soft ripened, very, very good cheese. So we'll show that to you in the shop too. So everyone have a little bit of nibble with that. Again, this would be really great with bubbles. Being a little bit rich, a little bit of acidity is good too. So like a Sauvignon Blanc, a New Zealand Sauv Blanc would be really nice with this. A little bit of grassiness and some zing and citrus would really liven this cheese up quite a bit. Also, you want to eat this cheese definitely at room temperature because it will really come alive. Because as a matter of fact, as a general rule of thumb, very few cheeses will benefit from refrigeration except to preserve them. But we always want to taste your cheese at room temperature. As they say in France, it's cheese, it's not a corpse. So bring that up to temperature and it will really wake up. All those flavors will come to you. Does anyone have any questions on the Dorothy's? Cool. All right. So that is really, really one of my favorites. I'm gonna have a little drink of water here. I encourage you to, if you got any vino open, definitely have a little sip. I'm still on the clock though. So next, number 3, I want to taste the Deer Creek, the Night Walker. And for everyone, that Night Walker is that long kind of triangular piece right here. This guy right here. So this is a cheddar from Wisconsin, and Deer Creek is one of our favorite makers here at the market. We have a number, well, not a number, we've got a few of their cheeses. This we just got in and we all went kind of, wow, because it is washed with whiskey. J.Henry Bourbon, as a matter of fact. So they wash the rind gradually in whiskey. And I think they actually, I'd have to look at the product description one more time. They may give it a bit of a soak too. I really get a lot of barrel flavor out of this. I am a real bourbon aficionado as well. And this cheese is wonderful. I really get the whiskey flavor. Oh, hi there. Was somebody waving at me? Debbie, any questions? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, and actually cheddar cheeses and whiskeys are, it's a classic combination. Scotch whiskey and Scotch cheddars. We have a couple of good Scotch examples in cheddar cheeses. The Mull of Kintyre, which is a very well-known Scottish cheddar cheese. That and a good smoky Scotch whiskey is a marriage made in heaven. That acidity of the cheddar really marries well with that barrel flavor, the richness, and the caramel tones. And I really do, like I say, I get a lot of the barrel out of this. I smell and I taste wood, and then a little bit of sweetness. This cheese definitely has a sweetness to it, which would also, this would pair also well with an IPA. And hey, we're in Central Oregon, we're Bendites, we love our IPAs, right? Unfortunately for me, IPAs can be very food, especially the real hoppy ones, are very food unfriendly. All that hops and the lupulin really shuts down your palate, or it shuts down my palate. Everyone's palate is different. Gustibus non desperatum, as the Romans would say. What I perceive as repulsive, you might actually love. This, however, would pair well with a less hoppy IPA, something that's not over the top. A Boneyard RPM actually would go very well with this as well. But have a great big nibble of this and enjoy it, and let me know if you have any questions about it. I'm going to enjoy a little bite because I love cheddar cheese. A word about cheddar. Cheddar is unique in the cheese world because of the process. The process is cheddaring. So what cheddaring is, the cheesemaker takes the curds after they have added their coagulant to the cream and the cheese is separated into curds and whey. The curds in cheddar are then salted. They generally salt them very well. And then Those curds are pressed together into a form, which classically is a tube. Your classic English cheddars are pressed into a tube and wrapped with cloth. And we refer to those cheddars as cloth-bound cheddars. What this does, the salt, the pressing, and the cloth dries the cheese out. Kind of the point of cheddar cheese is to make it as dry as possible. And this gives the cheese naturally a little bit of a crumble, which is a sign of a very good aged cheddar cheese. It should crumble just a little bit. And you definitely get, especially a good example is our house cheddar, the Tillamook 3-year-old here in the market. That definitely has like a really kind of salty bite and a little bit of crumble and a kind of apple cider vinegar tang to it, which is very classical in cheddar cheese. You've all heard of Colby cheese, Colby cheddars. So what a Colby is classically is a wet cheddar cheese. So they don't do this drying process. The cheese retains more of the moisture, and Colby cheddars and so quote unquote Jack cheddars, which is a misused term, but Jacks or Colbys, those are more of a wet cheddar cheese and not as salty, a little bit more creamy. I like the tang, I like the aged stuff. We've got some great aged cheddars here. We have an 8-year-old from Hooks. We have a 5-year-old from Hooks. Our house cheddar from Tillamook is a 3-year-old, as I say. And we have a Novak from Wisconsin, which is 7 years old. And so that's gonna have a real tangy acidity to it, nice and sharp. And it also, it has kind of a milkiness to it, which is really kind of unusual, but it's really good. So try that Novak. I'll show it to you in the store, or any of us will show it to you. So that is our Deer Creek Nightwalker. Really good. We also have here in the store, and we'll show it to you, the Robin from Deer Creek, which is a Colby Jack. And it's actually from Colby, Wisconsin. So it's the real deal. That is absolutely delicious. One of my favorites in the case, and we'd be happy once again to show that to you. Great cheese. So any questions on the Nightwalker?
Yes, John, we got a question in the chat. What kind of wine would go well with this one?
With the Nightwalker, boy, I would go something, a Pinot Noir to my palate would be wonderful with it. That kind of berry fruit, something fruity, because this cheese also, like I say, has a little bit of sweetness to it. And I think that would marry well with that. Another one, I think a bigger, like big old powerhouse Zen would go really good. Something with a little bit of punch to it. Yeah, a Cabernet would shut your palate down, I think, a little too much, a little too tannic, depending on the Cabernet, of course. You might consider also a Sangiovese-based wine, a Chianti or Chianti Rufina from Italy, or gosh, just anything as long as it's not too tannic, because the tannins and this particular cheese, I think it's going to shut down your palate just a little bit. Now, Cabernet does go very well with other wines. We're going to get to one, other cheeses, excuse me. We're going to get to one soon, but I would stay away from anything tannic with this particular cheese. Something a little more fruit driven in a red. Oh gosh, a dolcetto from Italy would be lovely. We have a couple of really beautiful dolcettos here. The JD Vira from Piemonte is one of my favorites, as well as the Borgogna from Barolo in Piemonte would be lovely with this. So yeah, good question, thank you. Anyone else? Cool. All right, so now we're gonna get into a true hard cheese. I mean, that you could throw through the window. And that is the Leclaire, the Evalon. So this is really unique. This is the one that's in your little boats, and it's kind of crumbly, almost looks like Parmesan, which is a good comparison. So this is a Gouda-style. I believe they actually use cultures, Gouda cultures and Parmesan cultures in this. It is a goat cheese, but very, very hard. And I'm going to have a little taste here, refresh my palate. It does have that Gouda kind of, I get a little butterscotch and caramel in this cheese. But then I also get like a little bit of tanginess. Yeah, Asiago, it's a good comparison too. Think Asiago, think Parmesan. I definitely get that flavor. A little bit, I'm getting some cherry fruit and some nuttiness in there. Yeah, that nuttiness just kind of exploded right now. And like I say, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of butterscotch. This is also a raw milk cheese, which is, wonderful. Raw milk cheeses are, of course, to me, always preferable, but unfortunately, we have the FDA that we have to deal with. And as you know, that's the reason we can't get a lot of European cheeses here in the States. By law, any cheese younger than 60 days must be pasteurized, and that is for Listeria. After 60 days, the risk of Listeria is gone. And I always, there's a saying in my business, your doctor and your cheesemonger are always the first to know when you're pregnant, because you come to the cheese case and say, oh, where's your pasteurized cheese? Is this raw milk? Is this pasteurized? So we always know first before the husband ever knows. Although with that said, the French do, of course, once again, think we're kind of nuts. Pregnant women have been eating raw milk cheeses for as long as there's been pregnant women and raw milk cheese. But don't listen to me, listen to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, I'm a cheesemonger, okay? So the benefit, of course, of raw milk cheeses is the essential amino acids have not been largely destroyed by the thermalization process of heating. Pasteurized cheese must be brought up to temperature up to 172 degrees rapidly within an hour. There is also thermalized cheese, which is a different process. It's a lower and slower process, does not kill all of the bacteria, but it retains more of the essential amino acid and flavor as well. Because another thing that pasteurization does is you do lose kind of some of that flavor. If any of you have ever had Reblochon back before, either in France or before we couldn't get it anymore in the States, which has been about 8 years now, I think. If I'm correct, don't quote me on that. French Reblochon just is got a flavor that cannot be compared. Just like almost like eating butter. I mean, with a little bit of cream in it. It's just astounding. So this cheese, though, really the Evalon, I really, of the batch here, if I had to pick a favorite, this is probably mine because of this. There's just so much flavor going on here. And I like goat milk cheeses. This is also another one of our cheeses. It's the Leclaire. It's made by a family, and the women in the family are the cheesemakers. And so another women-owned business making amazing cheese. So this stuff is special. Definitely come by and get some. I believe we just got a wheel in, so we'll be cutting into that tomorrow. And it is this is amazing. I'm checking for questions here. Yeah. Any questions on the Evalon?
Yeah, we had a question that this cheese is pretty peppery and spicy. What is that?
Yeah. No, I definitely get that too. I get some of that pepper on there. I mean, gosh, a part of that is going to be the goat milk. Once again, goat milk cheeses tend to be very tangy and a little bit of acidity, also a little bit of grassiness, maybe a little herbaceousness. That might be part of what you're getting there. But yeah, I would agree with you. I definitely see that. Yeah, it's just wonderful. Goudas, the Dutch Goudas, the flavor, a lot of that comes from the cows themselves. They are largely pasture cows, grazing cows, grass-fed. So that definitely lends itself, obviously, to the milk, to the cheese. You will get a little bit of herbaceousness in there. Sheep's milk cheeses, too, have a little bit of grassiness and sweetness. Goat, as I say, tanginess, acidity, and a little bit of grassy, a little bit of funk, too. You get that. That's why goat's milk cheeses can be, kind of polarizing for a lot of people. I talk to customers all the time and say, oh God, I can't stand goat milk cheeses. And, I can see why the funk, but this, I definitely get that spice there. Good observation. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions? Oh, I like this question here from Josie. Hi, Josie. Um, that's what, there are certainly women, there are creameries that are run by women in Europe. There is one in Switzerland, very well known, and so well known that I've actually forgotten the name, but we used to have their cheese here. They do Alpine style Gruyere cheeses. We brought in a couple of their cheeses last winter, and we were really impressed with them. And yeah, they are two women who are making probably one of the hardest cheeses to make, that Gruyere style. It's a laborious, time-consuming process, aged anywhere from a year to 2 years in caves. So as far as it being a traditional role in cheese making, that I really can't answer with any authority, but we do have some good examples. We have a great one here in Oregon, Briar Rose in Dundee. The cheesemaker is a woman. We have their butter bloom here, which is a triple cream that's outstanding. We used to have one that was washed with Black Butte Porter beer, which I loved, but unfortunately they don't make anymore. But yeah, a really good question. Thank you. And perhaps one we should do some more research on, and I apologize for not being better prepared to answer that. All right, so I'm going to wash my palate here.
And John, while you're taking a sip, we have a question. How about some alcoholic beverage suggestions, like a sparkling cider?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head with the cider. Actually, cheddar cheeses and cider is a classic combination. The British being cider folks, and actually, traditionally here in the States too, it's been said that the United States was kind of founded on cider. George Washington, when they all made cider, what are you going to do with all those darned apples? But yes, and non-alcoholic apple cider is a very good. It goes great with cheese. As a matter of fact, obviously it can go with a wash rind because of the sweetness, or a soft ripened cheddar. It's a marriage made in heaven. It would even stand up to a blue, and we're going to get to the blue here. And actually, I think a just regular old non-alcoholic apple cider would go lovely with this blue cheese. So yeah, and anything as long as it's not too fruity or too sweet. Sweetness is going to kill a lot of it. But certainly we do here in the shop. We have the Psalms, the drinking vinegars, the Thai drinking vinegars. As long as you don't mix it too strong. We have a basil psalm, a ginger psalm. Is everyone familiar with psalms? Have we heard of them? It's a Thai drinking vinegar, and you mix it with soda water. 1 part psalm to 4 parts soda is kind of classic, though you can adjust it to your palate. It is also good as a cocktail mixer too. That's your traditional shrub cocktail. I don't know if any of you are familiar with shrub cocktails. They're actually some of the original cocktails here in America, dating back to the 18th century. Fruit, vinegar, and bourbon or whatever you want to mix. That's a shrub, but you can just drink these vinegars straight with a bit of soda, and yeah, they would go lovely with the cheddar. I think a psalm like the ginger or the basil psalm would be quite lovely with it. So come in and check them out. We'll give you a taste of it and let you try them because I really think they're quite good. Okay, let's see. Oh, and we got a question here from Debbie about the dried fruits. Yeah, those are Hood River dried cherries. And yeah, certainly they'd be really lovely, especially with this cheddar and this blue that's coming up. They're great. And we sell a ton of these things. Obviously very, very popular here in the store, being an Oregon product. We have blueberries and dried cherries from Hood River. Dried figs too, dried apricots would be lovely, really, with any and all of these cheeses. We typically, when we make charcuterie boards for customers, we will throw some dried fruit on there because yeah, it's a great mix. So yeah, thank you, Debbie. Great question. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time. about a little after 7 o'clock. Is everyone ready for a big punch in the mouth here? Something big, powerful, and classical. Our blue cheese, our Stilton. All right, Stilton. Stilton, I could go on and on and on, is one of my favorite cheeses in the world. It's actually, Stilton is up there with Parmigiano Reggiano, and the Morbier is one of the Roquefort as one of the world's great cheeses. This is, of course, from England, traditionally in the shires, the Derbyshire, Leicestershire. Very, very ancient cheese too. This cheese Stilton has been made for hundreds of years. It is documented all the way back to the 17th century. So this one is Singletons. And I'm going to dig this out here. And of course, you can't miss this. Stilton is also kind of unique in blue cheese world because this is technically a cheddar, which has been introduced with penicillin, with bacteria. And so it has gone through that process of cheddaring and compressing to dry the cheese out. And you'll notice that I'm going to pop this in my mouth. Excuse me. So we have some very creamy blues in the case. Roquefort from France, Agour from France, formed Ambert from the Auvergne region of France. Those are very, very creamy. So they haven't been, compressed and dried out a little bit, but the Stilton has. And boy, you want to talk about flavor. This is why I love this cheese so much, is this is just it's just an explosion. It's so rich. You get that, and I know mold is not a term we want to speak about in culinary terms often, but mold is good. And then that mold is supposed to be there. And it does contribute a lot to it. Think a damp forest floor, think barnyard is a term often used in the wine world and often used to describe old world Pinot Noirs. This is just got all of it. And I also get that sharpness and kind of acidity too. There's just so many flavors here. If you have everyone familiar with your classic flavor wheel, if you look at Stilton on the diagram of that, it's just hitting, it hits almost all the points. I mean, really, I definitely get a lot of fruitiness in this too. Cherry fruit, strawberry fruit, so much going on there. It's just that you can see why it's one of my favorite cheeses. And if you're a true cheese geek, you just love blue cheese. Blue cheese also, like goat cheese, it can be very polarizing. I do speak with customers frequently who just absolutely cannot stand blue cheese. Get that blue away from me. Which is understandable. It's not for everyone, but really. Roquefort is another example too. There's so much flavor going on in a Roquefort. Roquefort blue cheese is also 100% sheep, which a lot of people don't realize. But yeah, classic, what we call pre-1925 Roquefort is 100% sheep. They cut it with cow's milk, and that's not real Roquefort. Also, is everyone familiar with the designation of AOP? And in Italy, it's DOP. So what that stands for is Appellation d'Origine Protected. So this is it. To be called Roquefort cheese, it has to be from the Auvergne region, has to be 100% sheep's milk, and it has to be aged for a minimum of 6 months before you can call it Roquefort, before it gets the designation from the government. It's protected status. Same thing with Parmigiano Reggiano, DOP, Denominazione d'Origine Protetta. So once again, aged 2 to 3 years from the Emilia-Romagna region, specifically Reggiana, and has to have the stamp. If you ever see me, you'll frequently see me in here cutting up whole wheels, 40-kilo wheels of Parmesan, and I'll show you sometime if you ask me the stamp from the government on there. It's got to be on there. So that's I just thought it would be a helpful piece of information. So Stilton, it doesn't have that status per se, but real English Stilton is you can't miss it. It is so distinct and distinguishable. I'm going to check my questions here. Let's talk a little bit about pairings with Stilton because there is so much you could do. If you're English, class one is brown ale, like a Newcastle brown ale or a Samuel Smith porter is just a perfect match for this cheese. Also, fortified wines, a port or a tawny port. You could even go with a ruby port or an Oloroso sherry from Spain would go lovely with blue cheese. I frequently, well, not frequently, I actually got to wash my waist. I will have blue cheese for dessert. Sometimes Stilton, sometimes Agur, sometimes Forme d'Ambert, and with like a little bit of a fortified wine. It's just an absolute lovely dessert. I don't need anything else. Although, throw in some chocolate and then, boom, you hit the trifecta right there. So that is my spiel on Stilton. Enjoy this cheese. We gave you a pretty generous chunk. It's really, really a classic. I'm going to check my questions one more time. I got one from, oh, excuse me. Oh, it's Debbie about the dried cherries from Traverse City. No, we don't. I don't know if we ever have. One of our focuses here at the market, of course, are Oregon products. But that'd be a question for Tim, our bulk guy. I can ask him about that, but that's a good question. I will keep that in mind. And yeah, we're going to record this, so I'll have that. I also have a question from Shauna. Vegan cheese suggestions for those with allergies. So plant-based cheeses. We do have a pretty good selection of plant-based cheese. They are in the produce section. I know them fairly well. I actually am, if you look at my profile, I do say I am a occasional vegan. I actually used to run a vegan restaurant, and I've always taken a great deal of pride in my plant-based cooking. Any restaurant that I have ever attached my name to has had a very substantial plant-based options on the menu. So I'd be happy to walk you through our vegan cheeses or plant-based. I prefer the term plant-based cheese in the produce section. But yeah, I think we do pretty well in that department, and there are some very good ones. So I'd be happy to talk to you about that if you're in the store and you want to grab me, or any of us. We all know the selection pretty well. So good question. Thank you, Shauna, for that. All right, does anyone else have any questions here? Cool. So it's about 10 after 7 here. Paige, do you have anything to add to this?
I think this has been a wonderful examination of these really fun cheeses. I know I'm having a lot of fun, and it sounds like everyone else is too. It's great to get to see everybody in this space. And John, you are just brimming with so much knowledge. So thank you so much for, I mean, you just keep coming up, you're like, oh yeah, and then we also have this, and we also could do this. So I'm just like sitting here like, okay, so I have charcuterie board of, I think I have like 20 cheeses now. So, might take me a couple days to get through, but does anyone else have any questions? I have somebody, Shauna, this is great. Thank you from This Cheese Lover. That's a great comment. Thank you, Shauna. We had Debbie who asked how old the cheddar is.
Yeah, you know what? I have to confess, and I'm sorry, I don't know. I am guessing it's going to be about 6 months, I'm going to say. I can find out for a fact, though. That would be on Deer Creek's website, I'm sure. I apologize for not knowing that, but cheddars, to get to the point where we are familiar with them, the harder ones, as I say, that have that quality that kind of crumble to them, we're talking about 4 to 6 months of aging. Our house cheddar that we sell here from Tillamook is 3 years old, as I say. We have another house cheddar from Wisconsin that's 18 months old, but cheddars do take some age. Once again, the idea is to get them kind of dried out and get the moisture out of the cheese. That's where you get the acidity, the tang, and the crumble to the cheese. So yeah, I'm just going to look one more time. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you guys. I have to go clean up and clean up my mess and see if I have any customers. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful seeing you all. Don't hesitate, come in the market and come talk to us. myself, Eric, our department head, and Kasha, and also my coworker, Tim, we're all happy to answer your questions anytime and sample you on any cheeses you want to taste. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, John. This is a wonderful presentation. We appreciate everyone being here tonight. We will be sending a follow-up survey to you. We would love to hear your thoughts. Tell us what went well, tell us what we can do next. And of course, always let us know what you want to see coming to you at your Deschutes Public Library. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. We hope to see you soon. Check out DeschutesLibrary.org for books, movies, and more, and check out our YouTube page for all our fun, free presentations. See you soon.
All right, thank you, Paige.